Yo, what's up everybody? Rando Mando here back with another video. I'm finally back. I've been waiting to make this video for a while. I just won a PQ undefeated. So, and Bobby Sapphire just won the sector regionals with um, pretty much the same deck. So I figured now would be a good time with new people coming onto the deck, how to play it and why we play what we play with who we play it. So let's quick run down. So the Palp leader, why do we play it? Two big reasons. One, honestly, both sides of the card is why we play it. The first side, the leader ability. So action, you spend a resource, tap it, defeat a friendly unit, draw a card, deal damage. It's not too exciting. You might say, well, that's a steep cost. You got to defeat a friendly unit. That's a big investment, and all you get out of it is a damage in a card. The idea behind it is you're going to snowball it. So it's not going to be crazy, but it's going to allow you to start snowballing. So there's a bunch of different builds. I'll be going over the red, the blue, the yellow, and of course green. So every version, and you'll see why the ability just works and allows you to snowball into the biggest leader flip in the game, which is when deployed, take control of a damaged non-leader unit. That is really, really impactful, regardless of what color you're going to play them in. On 8 resources, you're going to be able to flip and take their biggest asset, and it's yours now. And it comes, if it's ready on their side of the board, it's ready on your side of the board. That means if you like can sequence it so that you're flipping on like a ready Luke Skywalker, you take a ready Luke Skywalker. And then, since you've been snowballing that leader ability of dealing a damage, drawing a card, you're setting this ability up so that you can flip, but then you're also getting a nice big card advantage so that not only are you flipping with big tempo, you're stealing a big unit, but you have a lot of cards in your hand, more so than your opponents. So on the 8 resource turn, you have essentially 2 more units than they do because you flipped one, you took one. And since you've been snowballing the card advantage, there's just really no way for them to come back to such a big tempo swing and board control. And then, of course, the on attack on his leader unit side also continuously snowballs it. So you start your snowball, and then when you flip, it's basically the end game. So what does that look like for the different colors? So there's red, and red plays different. All the colors play differently to one another, and that's why this leader is so cool. Despite the fact that the general game plan is the same, survive to 8 resources, how they do that is different. And so if you're playing the red version, you're going to be utilizing Tarkin Town to essentially sacrifice life for ramp and tempo. So your turn 1 is looking like Porg into Bounty Hunter Quarry, sack the Porg, which deals a damage, which then you can use Target Town after drawing a card to kill their unit, trigger Bounty Hunter's Quarry if it's a unique unit, search in 10 for 3 cost or less. Guess what? Super Laser Technician costs 3. So you kill their turn 1, you ramp to do a Super Laser Technician. Then on your following turn, since you drew cards and you searched, you're still card neutral. You're going to be able to like sack the Super Laser Technician, play a resupply. So then like they're on 4, you're on 6, and then since you've like really filtered your deck because every turn you've drawn a card or searched your deck's pretty thin, and that allows you to see your finishers more often and your ramp to get to those finishers. So for the red version, you're essentially sacrificing 5 life to take out their turn 1 play and to ramp. Or if you can't find ramp, you're essentially sacrificing the 5 HP to stabilize earlier, and then HP doesn't matter. Because like in every game, HP is a resource, and it doesn't matter how much damage you have on your base as long as you've won the game. So you can be on 24, 28, 29, as long as your base is 30 HP base, it doesn't matter. So red utilizes this philosophy the most by the fact that it's already starting 5 HP down, but it's using that with a purpose to accelerate its clock, which the other colors can do in different ways, but this is the most direct way of essentially pseudo ramping on turn 1. Then there's green, and green plays differently than red, obviously. With green, you're looking for more pure generic value. So you're going to be playing Massimidas to draw you cards. You're going to be playing Colonel Yularen to heal. You're going to be playing Paula the Lesser to generate droids, which you will sack, or trigger droid commandos, which then will be an ambush. Or you've got Emperor's Royal Guard and Knight of Ren, which are both huge stat pods early on. And then on the 4-Re's turn, you're either applying more stats to the board with your enterprising lackeys, or you're ramping and doing something else with command Whether it's buffing up a unit already, so you have a Knight of Ren, now it's a 6/6 Knight of Ren, and you've ramped, you're going into 6 resources. You play a Barrage, now it's an 8/8 that just nuked their whole board, swings and kills their leader. Going into the 7 resource turn, following Maul, Vader, boom, you've like complete dominance on the board because of just the raw stats you're putting on there, and then you're applying buffs that nuke the board. So Command is a buff that deals damage, Overwhelming Barrage is a buff that deals damage, Craving Power is a buff that deals damage. So you have big units to start with, they're getting buffed even more, you're nuking the board, here comes your Palp flip, you steal their biggest thing, you just have so much on board. And then there's ways you have to cheat around it because you don't have the tools the other decks have. Because you're just putting raw stats on the board, you've got to find ways around the things that beat you. That's why there's a 1 of power that's designed to kill leaders, which this deck really doesn't do unless it is a massive stat mod that doesn't get removed. It has Unity of Purpose as a finisher, so you can close out the games really fast. Choose sides in Palpatine's return, help into more mid-range and control matchups. Like in control, how do they deal with 4 Relentlesses in the main deck? Simply cannot. And mid-range, when they play like a Crate Dragon or Luke or something massive, and you go, okay, here, take my 1/1 Battle Droid token that I spawned from Boggle like 6 years ago. I'll take that. I think that is a fair trade. So green is all about putting stats to the board and amplifying the stats, and then kind of snowballing that way. And you'll use your leader abilities on all the chaff you get earlier. So like later in the game, you continuously draw into your bomb, into your bomb, into your bomb, because you're using your leader ability to draw you more cards. Then there's blue, which blue is the most control version of it, because you're just basically using your ability to fuel your removal. So you've got turn 1, you've got Pershing, Night Sister Warriors. I personally like the Y-Wing, V-Wing, and then Piet. So the combos this deck can generally do is like turn 1 you draw a card, or you claim to kill their turn 1, and then you kind of do this like removal cycle where you go Power, Takedown, Callous, Vigilance, Timely Vader, Super Laser Blast. They never catch their breath, and then it's too late. You've already got to your flip. Or you can like Acceleration Ramp, or on the 5 resource turn, you can go like Removal Piet or Rampant Piet, and Piet is like, well, you kind of have to kill Piet. Because if you don't kill Piet, then you get to ambush Vader on 6, which is crazy, and if you ramp, then you're on 7, so it's like, well, if they have Timely Vader anyway, I'm cooked. And by playing all of these units that draw cards, when you sack them, you draw even more cards, so then you have this massive card advantage, and with such a thin deck, that means your blasts are almost always on 8, that means your ramp is almost always on 2, everything you have is just always there for you. And it makes it really hard to not have the answers as a control deck, which is really good. So those are kind of the 3, and I'll get to when you want to play them versus yellow, because yellow is obviously the most popular and probably why most people are here. But before I go into the list of Palp Yellow that's currently being played, I'm going to go back in time to some of the lists and how it evolved and why it plays the way it does. So this was a list I took back when Django was legal, and when you start noticing the difference, you'll start to understand why Palp Yellow specifically. So here, I'm sure a lot of you can already notice a lot of cards that are missing from current day Palp Yellow. Most of those being the early plays. You'll notice the late game plays are more or less the same, except now we're actually playing more late game plays because of how the meta is. But earlier, it was more focused around how do we essentially get the legacy run's value without the fact that we just don't have legacy run, it doesn't exist. And that was through Overwhelming Barrage. But since you're playing Overwhelming Barrage, you have to play earlier units to have something to barrage off of. So that's why, 1, you're playing a lot more turn 1s, and you have to have something to do with space, because back then, again, Legacy Run is a really good counter to all these space decks. So it was units into units, or waylays to slow down the game, and then if you ramped, you could go lackeys and then lackeys to barrage. So essentially, that's like your Legacy Run play sack. It's just you had to do more maneuvering around it. And in the same vein, that's kind of why Cad Main is there. Because you, like, Palp Yellow just needs a way to deal with the board. And it didn't have Legacy Run, so it had to play Overwhelming Barrage. And then this is a version I took to a top 4 to PQ, and you'll notice it's a little bit different. Okay, I've went down on barrages, and now the question is, well, why go down on barrages if barrage is how you stabilize the game, which is true. And the real simple is that because you can actually stabilize earlier if you're a little bit more aggressive. So that's why I have like Merciless Contest and the blasters, where you put on your things to essentially swing, kill up, and then still have it be there, so then you can kill up again. So essentially, you get like 3 for 1 because you kill something, and then you didn't waste any cards because you used the blaster from your row. And then you can notice, okay, I'm on no Vaders because I've just wanted to try out no Vaders, and that meant more Cat Banes and Mauls was really good. But then you can see refining it a little bit, still have all that top end, reducing it, and this was the version that was played before the Legacy run came out. And it was focused more around the Separatist package because it was a good value package back then. A lot of the units were weaker and allowed your 4/3 Ambusher to come into play and be a really big impact. And playing to the board was much more important. So that's the idea here: is you're playing much more to the board, and this was when leaders existed, so pilot leaders existed, so confiscating the main to deal with that. And then here is more or less the framework of what lists are today. Now they're on more sneak attacks. This was more or less the list prior to Worlds, or Galactics, I should say, where it was more angled towards just pure trading 1-for-1 with extra value on top. So like ISB, you sack it, you deal 2 damage, you play a P-38, you kill it, right? You play a Contracted Hunter on 4 resources, you sack it to kill it. You play Legacy Run on 5, you sack it the next turn. Or you sneak attack in it, sack it, it dies. Or on 6, you play it, you sack it, it dies. It does everything you need whenever you need it because it's that good. And then no other shenanigans, we're just on Vaders, Walkers, Devastators. Because our early game has so much value, we can play around pilot leaders with Confiscate. Everything's juicy. And so, how did that evolve? Not much. Since Galactics, the list has remained more or less the same. It's just people's like twists and turns on it, like whether you want to play Lothcat or no Lothcat, whether you want to tech for more control or less control. Like this is a list more for control. Relentless is Bounty Hunter Cruise restocks. Mahdi's, that's all for control. It allows you to get more tempo. This is the list that I'm sure everyone's familiar with now, which will be essentially the baseline, which is some form of Lothcat for tempo. 1 7-drop, like a Maul, a Fennec, a Cad, one of it, something. And then like 3 or 2 sneaks, 3 change of hearts, 1 traders, 2 traders, no traders. That's about all the movement there is there. And then a sideboard essentially dedicated to pilot aggro, space aggro, and control. And then, well, what's the change on that? This is what I'm currently running after my PQ win. It's a little bit different to my PQ list, which I'll get to that. But it's a good list. And it's more or less the same. I just changed a change of heart to a relentless to be better into control game 1. I switched the Fennec Shand to a Maul to be just, I liked Overwhelm better than the late game presence. I changed a sneak attack to be a Revan's Lightsaber, and 1 Loftcat to be an extra crumb to make sure my turn 1 clunkies were a little bit more happening. So look at that, little minor changes, and then in the sideboard, 2 confiscates, and since I still believe you should be playing 3 change of hearts, 3 sneak attacks somewhere in your list, I just don't think it's needed for every matchup, so I put those on the side. 1 relentless because I have 1 in the main, 2 Palp returns because it's universally good. So then it leaves like 3 flex slots, and I wanted to be a little bit better into control and a little bit better into space decks. So Commandeer was my space deck insurance, Mahdi was my control insurance, and Overwhelming Barrage was my mid-range insurance. Because the philosophy here is the same philosophy it was back in my Vader list, which was a one-sided board wipe late in the game, like playing it on a Devastator or a Walker, or in this case Maul or Cad Bane. It was a 9 damage spread around however you want it. Boom, there goes their whole board. Especially on 8 resources, you could usually damage, like blow up 2 things, big things, deal 2 damage to 2 smaller things, And then it became interesting because like whatever they didn't attack with, then you flipped with, and now you have so much pressure on the board that you just won. It's the same philosophy, which is why I put it in the side because you don't need it for every matchup, but the matchups you want it in, you want a one-sided board wipe. So now I'll go through some of the tournament lists, and then I'll go through some of the matchups. Let's see if I can find that here. So there's two different Palp lists that we played for Galactics, and they were both blue. One's the 35 Colossus, and one's just the 30. And they were both on the Timely Vader package because that's the best package for blue currently, I believe. So you'll notice something different between the Colossus and the 30 version is that Colossus is much more oriented towards the fact that you're starting with 5 cards, obviously. So a little bit more card draw and a little bit more redundancy in fixing your draws. So Infernal 4, more Owens, and then more removal after removal. So powers into takedowns. And this is something that the 30s also can do, but it's just more emphasized in the 35 because of the fact that you have one less card. You have to make your 3 much more planned out. And this was the list I took to Galactics. I went, I think, 9, 1, and 6. I drew 6 games. But same kind of concept here. We're using the blue Palp system of drawing cards to fuel our removal. And I expected a lot of Han 2s, which I'll get when I get into the matchups. I'll explain why blue is really good in the Han 2. With a lot of the other matchups I expect to be at Galactics. And so I think blue is a good call when you expect more of the mid-range and not any shenanigans when it comes to like pilot leaders or a mixed meta, or basically when the meta is known. I think blue is a really good call because it's what it does exceptionally well. Like you will not falter with blue at doing what it does. The issue is it's more polarizing than yellow in the fact that its matchups that it wins like 90-10, and the matchups that it loses 90-10. So it's a much more polarizing build than yellow. Well, yellow is like you've got game into everything because of all the tricks it has, but sometimes you lose, and that can be rough. So here's some of the matchups, and why I liked it so much is like Anakin Blue, 2-0. Anakin Blue is a all these blue, red, green heroism decks are all very good matchups for Palp Blue, which is what I expected at Galactics, and so that's what I beat. Hantu Green, it's really good. I was playing the Annihilators. Hantu Green has a really hard time dealing with Avengers and Annihilators and Time Invaders, and that's why you pick the deck I picked was again 90-10 matchup. So these two were a breeze. Quinlan Turkingtown is the one matchup you don't want to see as this deck, and it showed. You basically have to ramp into Timely Vader in order to win, and I got it one game, didn't get it the other 2 games. Carlos is actually my teammate, so he knew the matchup in and out. I was cooked. Kevin Targetdown, really easy. Now this is the problem with blue. Is into the mirrors. It's really, really, really grindy, and you don't have the sneak attack finishers that yellow does, and those games tend to draw. So I drew into essentially what is the mirror on Iden. Hantu Blue, really easy, 2-0'd. I'll get further into that, but I'm just giving you the quick rundown of lists. Draw into the mirror, Colossus versus 30, it's basically the same. And then I drew to Yoda because it didn't matter at that point. And same with day 1. You'll notice it's a lot of really good matchups. Kira is just like a worse version of what I'm doing, so I'm better. I win. Hantu Blue, like I said, that's the reason I picked this deck, so I won. Anakin Blue is the same as Hantu Blue, so it's really easy. I won. And Kira is, like I said, worst version. And then here I was able to draw my way into day 2, so I drew against Speed, and then I drew against Hantu Blue, but it didn't matter. So as you see, the deck I picked, Palp Blue, is really good into what it's really good into, and that's heroic midrange and villain midrange. It dominates those fields. But it has trouble into more of the aggressive decks. So here is the Palp Blue that I took to one of my PQs after Worlds. So a couple of changes, but again, the matchups it was good into, it was still good into. This Grand Emerald Thrawn is like 10 times heavier as a control deck, so that's something you have to watch out of. As the blue Palp is very interesting because like it's control-y, and it's more control-y than mid-range, so it beats it. But there's control decks that are more control-y than it, and so it loses. So here, Mother Taliesin was also another really good matchup, like really good matchup for Pal Blue. And I'll explain all of this more in detail, but I'm just going over the matchups right now. So here, beat the Poe, beat the Mother Taliesin, lost to a Super Control deck, beat Han Tarkentown, beat Mother Taliesin, see, like, all these mid-range villain hero decks, super easy for Pal Blue, just run through them, and then I lost to Sabine, which is this deck's worst matchup. Like, it's bad for yellow, it's really bad for blue, abysmally bad, and so I lost. And then further on, here's this PQ that I went to, which I missed on the top 8, because I drew 2 games and I lost to a Poe, but I beat a Wedge, which is good. I beat Han 1 Red, which is a really good matchup. Then I drew to Alex, who won the PQ and also top 8 of the sector the following week, I think, which is crazy. I beat Kylo Data Vault because the fact that I'm able to go under. So it's like you played a late game. How you play against all these mid-range decks, which I'll go into more detail with my PQ win, because I played more of them, is simply you chip away damage, you chip away damage, you chip away damage, and then you force them to have to answer, and then when they answer, it's usually expensive, and then you can sneak attack in a bomb and kill them. I drew to a Ray. I simply didn't have enough time. And then these two were friends. They came together. So I got back-to-back Poe ECLs. I lost the first one because I don't recall seeing Legacy Run, or if I did, it was too late. And then game 2, everything sequenced perfectly, and I got the win. And that's what I mean with how, like, Palp Blue, it's very polarizing. Like, the games you win, you win. The games you lose, you lose. Yellow, it's not the case. Like, I'm pretty sure these are close to the exact same list. And as you can see with where they were on the board, I think ended the day with the exact same record. So at the end of the day, Palp Yellow is like, you can win, but sometimes you don't. Let's see if I can quick find the tournament I won, and then we can start digging deep into the matchups. Here we go. So here's the PQ I won in Woodstock, Illinois, 78 players. I was undefeated. I won 5 games in Swiss, drew out my last 2, and won out the top 8. So let's go into what I played, which is this list. So you'll notice the 2 kind of changes from the list I played, or from the list I showed earlier, is just I was playing a Hotshot and Overwhelming Barrage in the main deck. And I think that's legitimately it. I just cut those 2 cards from the list I showed earlier. And here I was running on a little bit more Pilot Hate. But it works really well into the decks, into an open field, which is what I didn't know what I was going to play. I thought about playing Kira, but I was like, a couple of people convinced me to stay true to my nature, and so it worked very well. So as you can see, one of my matchups, I played against 2 Boba Data Vaults, Grand Animals round 1, which I'm not going to go over too much, Admiral Piet's Kira Data Vault, which I played twice, and a Gar ACO. So for Boba Data Vault, oh yikes, not a good run. You can see here, I'll go over the other list too. So how do you beat this deck, right? Because a lot of times, Palp Yellow will lose this deck from 1 card and 1 card alone. And that's this one, Planetary Bombardment, right? You have no units on board, they have no units on board, you're thinking, this isn't that bad. Boom, they hit you for 9 damage to base, you die. How do you not get to a point where that's the case? So it kind of depends. And this is the same thing with everything Palp Yellow does, right? It depends on what they do, depends on what you do, and depends on what matchup you're playing against, depends on your matchup. So if you have initiative, it's pretty safe to basically lead with whatever you want. Bazine is good, Aura Sing is good. Crumb can be good, because if they go with indirect, then you can just bounce it and cycle it. So if you have initiative, basically any turn 1 play is good. If they have initiative, it changes, because the fact that they have Pyre, Pride, and they have ships, right? And so, like, Silencer, Kylo's Silencer dies to ISB. Okay. But ISB isn't that great into, like, a TIE Bomber or an HK or, Pride. But ISB is good if you have P38 to follow it up. Because then, if they leave with Pride, you can go ISB ping it, you can keep the ISB around, take some of the damage, swing into the Pride, lay a P38, kill the Pride, and a lot of times their turn 2 is either a ship in space, which the P38 will kill, or it's ramp, in which case you have the P-38 to kill their future ships, because all their future ships have 4 HP. And it also means they don't ramp with their super laser technician unless they kill it themselves, which is saving you damage. So that's kind of the main thing is, and if they have the initiative and lead with pride, and you don't have an ISB into P-38, there's probably a good argument, unless you have Aura Sing to claim the initiative and lead with Contracted Hunter to kill Pride to avoid damage. Because how you generally lose this matchup is you take a lot of damage early, you don't stabilize, and then you die to planetary bombardments, ruthless raiders, devastators later into the game. So main thing is early in the game, you have to stabilize with the early aggression, and then you have to stabilize the flip turns so you're not taking a bunch of damage. Now, generally, there's two camps of Boba Fett players. There's ones that will flip on the ship and force you to have the answers, and there's ones that will never flip on a ship and force you to deal with the 2 lanes. If they're the type that flips on a ship, confiscate, no good to be dead are your friends. If they're the type that flip to the ground, no good to be dead is still really good, because anytime Boba's on the ground or on ship, he's not using his passive ability of dealing you extra damage, which when it comes to Devastators is important. But a lot of times, by the time Devastator's out, Boba will be back on his leader side, and so you'll have to always keep in mind 5 damage from a Devastator or 9 damage on planetary bombardments. So one thing you have to keep in mind is, if you look at this deck, what doesn't it have? It really doesn't have top end. It really doesn't, right? It's got 3 Ruthless Raiders, 3 Devastators, 3 Mauls, and that's it. Some are running the 10 cost Devastators, but beyond that, that's all the top end they have. And another thing you'll notice, they don't have ways to draw, which means they're getting what they're getting off the top of the deck, and that's it. So if they ramp, they're not applying anything to the board, and that means they're down a card, but they're up ramp, but they're not threatening much, which means you can flip pretty aggressively without really being punished. Because whatever they play, you can generally answer, because you've got Change of Hearts and No Good to Me Dads, and that's kind of all you need, because like once you have board, they can't take it away from you, and then they die really quickly. Because again, they top deck very poorly. Like 90% of their deck is useless once they hit 8 resources. It's all terrible. So main things to watch out for is sequencing into their turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and not getting blown out by a Darth Vader pilot. Which, if it's open lists, then it's a little bit more awkward. But if it's closed lists, since most Palp yellows are playing Traitorous or Confiscates somewhere in the 60, they probably won't be as aggressive with Darth Vader, especially since you have the No Good to Be Dead, which is a very good play. Not bad at all if they lead with Darth Vader. If you have a Crumb No Good to Be Dead, you just No Good to Be Dead. That's 2 turns later. They've done absolutely nothing. You can just play your Crumb and doesn't matter. Like it'll take some damage from whatever they play, and then you can bounce it, and you can deal with the Vader future on. I mean, so, excuse me. So yeah, generally, if you have the play, anything turn 1 is good. Bazine is probably exceptional. But Aura Sing is very good too, because if you Aura, then they can't Pride really, because it just kills it for free. And Crumb McClunky is generally okay too, because whatever you McClunky, you can probably kill with either an ISB or a P-38. And then of course that means they're not Pride, so that's fine. Yeah, so basically, you can flip earlier than you don't need to hold out for a Devastator or a Ruthless Raider. You don't need to do that. Because you have Change of Hearts, and if you're on the 3 Change of Hearts, then you really don't need to, so flip to make sure you don't die. What happens if it's coming out earlier? Like, again, Planetary Bombardment is on 6 resources, so how do you navigate it earlier than 8 or 9 resources? You really can't. You really can't. So if they have Dorian on 5, and they've ramped and you haven't ramped, and you're on 4 resources and they're on 5 resources, and you haven't done much and you haven't drawn a Bazine, and you're on 5 resources now, you go, yeah, play out my legacy run. And then they're like, okay, well, I'll, flip my boba onto my ship and I'll swing and hit you for 1 billion damage, and then I'll put planetary bombardment and hit you for, 12 more. You're dead. And that's how you lose. So basically, your best job is to avoid when they ramp and you don't, and then avoid them having a ship when you don't. So that's one of those like sneak attacking and legacy run. Very acceptable play if you're in that situation to not auto die. Basically, instead of like think how do I lose, and then do everything in your power to make sure you don't lose to that line. So if you're losing to they ramp and then they Dorian and then they flip and they hit me for 1 billion damage and then I have nothing on board since I'm on like 5 resources or whatever, and they plan to bombardment, they hit me for 12 because they have a capital ship. What makes you survive that? The answer is not going to be playing out more big body units, because they're just going to nuke those with the planetary bombardment, and you're going to die to the overwhelming board state they now have. The idea is make sure they don't have to store in gunship in the first place. So that means setting up sacks to try to throw a sneak attack legacy run into it. That's acceptable. If you can do that on 4 and they played that on 5, and you can just trade them 1-for-1 and call it a day, that's acceptable. Or if you can play it on 5 or something like that. Basically, that's the main blowout, is Dorian into planetary bombardment when you don't have stuff on board. So early aggression stabilize with contracted hunters, ISBs, P-38s. Try and ramp without like ramping is one of those like there's a certain damage threshold you can take before ramping is not advisable. But if you ramp into this deck, it makes it really awkward because like especially post board, it gets pretty awkward because then you have confiscates and such, and that means they're like blowout plays aren't really blowout plays anymore because the fact that you can just nuke their leader. And I was on commandeers, which if you're struggling into this matchup, I would highly recommend playing commandeers, because it allows you to like, if you ramp and they ramp, then it's fine. But it allows you to take Ruthless Raiders and Dorian Gunships, which are their capital ships, that lead into that devastating planetary bombardment way earlier than it should be. It allows you to negate that because you take it and then they can't do that, because you just put all the damage into the ship. So if you're struggling with Boba Data Vault, there's no shame in, and if you expect it, there's no shame in bringing cards that beat this. And Commandeer is a really good one. And also it's really good because like if they go big thing, they attack with big thing, then they play a big thing. Like if they go Dorian, on the next turn they swung with Dorian, they play a Ruthless Raider, you can take their Ruthless Raider, and now it's like, well, and it comes in ready, so now it's like, well, shoot, right? Because you have an extra resource to sack it. Like if I flip, you can just run it in, do 2 damage, does 2 damage, sack it to do no damage, like. But then I'm on this ship that's exhausted, so my Boba flip was useless. If I flip to the ground, it kills it both. Now I'm ready for a Palp flip, and I've got nothing on board, and like, so like Commandeer is very good if you're expecting this matchup and you're having trouble with it. You can play that, no shame. All right, let's see if there's any difference between that one and this one, and not really too much. This one's on one less Dorian. It has Vanguards. It has Stormtroopers, which Stormtroopers are bad into us. We just ping it and it dies. Yeah, Krayt Dragons is something you always have to keep in mind. They might have it in their sideboard, and that's the only card that makes it a little bit more awkward to flip earlier than you need to, because Krayt Dragon math. But generally, it's one of those, if they're ahead, they win by it, and if they're behind, it's a useless card. So it's one of those, you can mental math it out of like, oh, that's another thing with Mauls. They always have the Maul later in the game. They always have it. And so like, you have to think, is it worth it to play like an ISB if it gets overwhelmed for 4? Am I dead? Or how do I deal with them all after it's overwhelmed, after I flipped? Am I dead? Because you have to think about 2-turn sequences. It's like, excuse me, I'm dying over here. If they maul and overwhelm, say 4 damage, right? Am I then dead to a Devastator? Am I then dead to a Ruthless Raider, right? So maybe it's more advantageous to not play out the ISB agent. Or maybe it's more advantageous to sack my Aura Sing that has 3 out of 4 damage on it. Because then I'm going to overwhelm for 6, and then... Because a lot of times, they don't have the answer, but they might top deck it. And if they top deck it, am I dead? But then there's some dilemma in that, because, like, if you sack it, then what if they have planetary bombardment? Now it has 2 more damage it can assign somewhere else. Um, but my general thing is play to the higher statistical, right? And so Maul is more impactful than a planetary bombardment the later the game goes because it's direct and it'll always be direct. Um, so I would sack my unit if it has 1 HP left, not to take 6 from a Maul. So that's something to keep in mind of. And then Krayt Dragons, if they have them in the side, I don't think anybody plays them in the main, but if they're in the side, um, you can decide that for yourself. What your best game plan is into that. Generally, it's just put enough units on board where if they play it, you can answer it, and then you can stabilize by another thing. Like throw all your units into it, play a reinforcement walker. Game's over. They have nothing they can do to a reinforcement walker. Literally nothing. And so you'll win the game by that. So it's fine to throw your whole board away and then land a reinforcement walker. All right. Pit red. Let's take a look. Well, this is pretty standard. So essentially they're not running a ton that you're really worried about till it's bombs. And so big thing that'll get you is they ramp into bomb, and then they blow you up with a planetary bombardment, right? Because they can go capital ship really early, like 4 resources for the M assault, and then 5, and then 6 that planetary bombardment. But this hits you, and this hits you, and everything hits for 1,000,000,000 damage, and you're dead. Really, everything in this deck hits you for 1,000,000,000 damage. And so the best way to not die is to ramp, and then like no good to be dead, any big thing, and then yeah, just try. This one is much more like polarizing than that because like they're not running like malls or anything like that. So like if they get behind, they have nothing they can do to get ahead. But if they're ahead, they're unlike the Boba Data Vault deck, which like top decks really badly. This deck is bomb after bomb after bomb because like look at this. Look at this deck. It bombs or redundancy 2 bombs. And so, unlike the Boba Data Vault deck, if you're behind, you're going to stay behind because they're going to keep jamming big threats, especially salvages in the board. So they can kill you, and since they don't have the Data Vault problem of having 10 extra cards, that means their planetary bombardments are that much more likely to actually come out earlier. So Bazine is very good. Bazine is really good into everything, so you'll want Bazine if you don't have Bazine. But Commandeer is also really, I think Commandeer won me a lot of games. So if you're struggling into green, red, villainy, planetary bombardment decks, Commandeer is a really good call. It was amazing all day for me. And now Kira, who I was the Piet Red and the Kira Data Vault. I was their only loss in Swiss and also their only loss in the top 8. So they did exceptionally well. But this Kira list, I believe, is like 2 or 3 cards off the Sector top 8 list, which is a different way you'll play against Kira than a Kira with Timely Vader. So there's Kiras with Timely Vaders, and then there's Kiras without Timely Vaders. How do you deal with them both? Kira with Timely Vader is a lot harder because that means when you flip your leader, it's going to instantly explode, which is kind of sad. Which means flipping on like less advantageous targets is a lot worse because of the Timely Vader. It just nukes the thing you just stole and your leader, and they have a board state. Well, that really sucks, right? Whereas if they don't have it, then you can pretty safely flip your leader, and it's very problematic because they don't really have a way to deal with it, except for Devastator or Annihilator's post board. But again, a lot of this deck's gas into us is post board, and that means the main board is pretty easy to beat. Especially if they're only on 2 Super Laser Blasts, it gets a lot better. So how I like to play around Kira is essentially the only way they're probably going to beat me is by the fact that they have 10 extra cards in their deck and they have Vigilance, which means if they run me out of threats, I lose the game. So I know a lot of people who've spectated my games probably notice that like Vigilance is my #1 hated card, and then it's Blast. It's like Vigilance, Blast. And you also have to know that these decks are playing Relentless in the main, and that's something to keep in mind. But most importantly, what to keep in mind is the fact that they only have 1 answer to a Relentless themselves, which is Devastator. Which means out of 60 cards in their deck, they only have 1 that can answer your Relentless. And that's why I decided to play Relentless in the main. Because they have 1 card in their deck, 1, that deals with my Relentless. If I jam that thing after a flip, there's nothing this deck can do, and it just folds in half. And Relentless is also really good into Timely Vader because they can't just Timely Vader. They have to expend something and then Timely Vader. So Relentless is super, super good into Kira. Now, you have to make sure you don't play Relentless into their Annihilator unless you have the backup plan of going Sneak Attack, Devastator, and just swinging 10 to base and killing them. So, like any blue-green Villainy deck, the essential game plan is to chip away at their life total, get them low, get them pretty close. Like, and by low, I mean like do like 23 damage over the course of the game. And like, I did this back in a PQ, um, like in set 4, maybe it was 3, where I played against like 3 Cure Data Vaults that day. And I was on Palp Yellow, and like there was one game where I had a crumb on board, and they had nothing on board, and I went, I hit your base for 1. They passed, I passed, I claimed. I hit your base for 1. They passed, I claimed. I hit your base for 1. They passed, I claimed. I hit your base for 1. I passed, they claimed. Like, because eventually, like, that crumb is going to kill them. They have to do something about this. But every damage it does is 1 damage closer to my Sneak Attack Devastator to kill them. And so that's kind of how you play it, is like you chip, 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 chip. And like, sure, that gives them time to draw their outs, but they don't have a ton, right? It's blast or bust, basically. Because everything else they kind of play, it's kind of awful. Like, all of this, except for Pershing, is kind of bad. And it's just overwhelm targets or free ambush targets for evaders. Um, so if you have Relentless, it's your best card in the deck. And their best cards are easily Blast and Timely Evader if they're on that. And then, of course, Vigilance. So when you're Bazining them, what are the targets you're looking for? You're looking for Vigilances, Blasts, and essentially Blowouts. Vigilance, Blast, Blowouts. And so that's when you want to time your Bazines. You don't just want to throw them out there. You want to throw them out there with purpose. So, do they have Ramp and it's early? Does that matter? Do they have Vigilance? Does that matter? Blast? Is that actually my problem? What's my blowout? And then that's what you want to take. And usually that's on the flip. Like on your flip, they're going to present something to you. They're going to be like, okay, here's. I just realized this deck doesn't play walkers. If they play walkers, they're going to play out the walker, and they're going to be like, here's a walker. And you have to ask yourself, this is bait. So what's the blowout, right? Is it a blast? Is it a timely vader? Is it a devastator? Is it an annihilator to take all my walkers? Like, what's the play here? Why are they giving me this? And so then the question is, if you have Bazine, what are you bazining for? Like, what's the card that in your mind is the reason why they gave you what they gave you? And if they gave you anything at all, like, is it a bait so you think they're gonna, blow it up, so then you don't take it, and then they actually didn't have it? So there's mind games around the flip that you have to be aware of, but generally, what I do is I take the bait. So if they give me a walker, I'm gonna take the walker and I'm gonna bazine them and see, what their counterplay was, because a lot of the times they're only running 2 blasts, and it's a 60 card deck, which means as long as you can control their Pershings, and their Ancient Calces, that's another really good blowout card, then they don't have ways to draw, which means, like the Boba Data Vault, they don't top deck very well. And that means once you have an advantage, it's really hard for them to get back the advantage. The only way they can do that is by Vigilance. That's their only real out, because Vigilance is the one card they can reliably play in a pass game, and it's really good for them, because it takes away a lot of our deck is gas. Like everything in our deck is good into their deck. So any card they hit is good. Like if they hit like 3 crumbs and a relentless, that's worth it because it's 3 powers that they don't have to play, and then it's a bomb that they don't have to worry about. Even post board, we're like, well, you put in your Palps returns, right? It's not that bad to vigilance. It is that bad because those are bombs I didn't get to play. Now my Palps return aren't additional copies; they're my only copies. Um, so that's the one real thing to worry about is vigilance timing you out, because you do have a clock. You do have to win the game before your deck runs out, and they don't. They do not. But a lot of the times you can do that by essentially killing their blowout play with your Bazine, or creating your own with sneak attacks or Mahdi's, which is why I like to play Mahdi. It's essentially we put threat outs there, we put threat out there, we put threat out there. We play our Mauls, we play our Vaders, we play our Devastators, we play our Walkers, we play our Relentless. Like, answer this, answer this, answer this, answer this. And eventually, they're going to answer it with a big bomb of their own. An Avenger, an Annihilator, a Vader, a Snoke. What does that do? It expends a lot of their resources, and if it's reactionary, that means they don't have what it takes to kill my big things. So like if they have an Avenger and a no glory, right? If they spend and they only have like 13 resources, then when I play my Devastator, and it's the only thing on board. They claim, they play their Avenger, they kill it. Oh, now I sneak attack in a Relentless. What do? Can't do anything. Like, they can't do anything to a sneak attack Relentless. They have no way to kill it. And then they just die. So that's how actually I beat him in Swiss was, I played a Devastator. He claimed he played as Annihilator, took all my Devastators. But since he was able to look at my hand, I was like, hey, I got lethal because I can sneak attack in a Relentless, and then I can play Madi and reset it, and I do 16 damage to your base and you die. I think he needed like 14 to die or something like that, and it was like he can't do anything about it because he has no events he can play because of Relentless, and he's out, so he's just dead. And how I won both games of the finals, I believe, was I game one, since I had the Relentless, I played out Relentless after I flipped with another thing, so he can't Avenger to kill it. There's only one Devastator in his deck, but he didn't draw it. Um, so it's like really awkward for him. And then I slap a lightsaber on my Palp, so now my Palp is a huge threat. And since they're not untimely Vaders, don't have an answer for that. And I've got the Mahdi game two, which is how I kill him in game two. But game one, I lightsaber him, I swung. He had to expend all of his resources to kill um, my Relentless, and so then my Palp was just getting free swings. And by the time it was over, sneak attack, and he's dead. And then game two, I put a lightsaber on my Palp. I go to town, and by the time he's managed all my other threats, I just Mahdi reset my Palp and he's dead. And that's why I put the lightsabers in there, was because it accelerates my clock. It becomes faster. And since it gives Palp 2 extra HP, Devastator doesn't kill Palp. It doesn't. Not for 2 extra turns. And then that's 2 extra turns he has to deal with a 6/12 leader. So that's how you kind of have to maneuver around Cura, is like the Cura player is going to want to blow out your flip with a Blast or a Timely Vader or an Annihilator. So how do you play around that, or do you walk into it and then try to use the fact that you know what they're going to do, so then you can do whatever you want to do uninterrupted, right? Because if they Timely Vader, then they're not ready for a sneak attack, Mahdi reset, kill them, right? So that's something you have to be aware of. All right, Gar Saxon, which ironically, Gar Saxon ECL was the one deck that Bobby Sapphire lost to in Swiss. So how do you navigate this? In theory, it should be a good matchup, right? Shields are everywhere, so you're like, well, I naturally ping off his shields. So again, what's the blowout? And the blowout is Timely Vaders on 6, because they don't need to play Timely. They can just ECL him in. So, and then another blowout is like an Ein Pilot, right? If they Ein Pilot one of their early ships, how do you deal with that? And they have blasters and traitresses, which you also have to be aware of. And also, craving power on their leader is another thing you have to be aware of. Most of their sideboards are all trash. Like, when it was open deck list, I looked at this and I was like, is he even going to side any of this in? Like, I'm like, no, Confiscates he's not going to side in. Definitely not siding in Legal Authority. Not Eager Escorts. I don't think he's going to side in Timely. This game will be over by then. And Vader is just a target for me to grab. So I didn't even think he was going to side in the Vaders. He sided in the Vaders, but I don't know if that was right or not. I don't know. But the main idea is their best play, probably turn one, is Krennic into something, because Owen is just annoying. But yeah, basically ISB is good because it pings off all the shields and then you can run it in. P38 is good. Basically all your cards are good. Legacy run's good. Basically the only thing you really have to worry about is the fact that the leader flip. And so one of the easiest ways to manage this leader flip is just by ramping. Because then it's really interesting. Because like I was running mauls, which means if you just empty flips on nothing and I just maul and kill it, but I don't have to maul and kill it, right? I could then ramp and flip and take his 6-drop. So if he Anakins, then what if I ramp and take it? So ramp is really the best case because this deck isn't aggressive enough for you to be punished ramping. And if you can navigate their leader, then it's pretty trash. Like they have got their leader and then they have Vaders and mauls, and that's it. The rest of the deck is kind of trash. And so like as long as the leader doesn't get like 2 hits off of like a 7 power leader or whatever, because they hotshot blastered him and then you just die instantly, or they don't get so much board advantage by a Timely Vader that you just die because they have overwhelming board control, then this matchup isn't that bad. So basically, again, look for blowouts with Bazine. It's Vader, it's Maul, and it's a big body booty leader. That's really the 3 things you watch out for: is you make sure Maul doesn't kill you, you make sure Vader timely doesn't blow you out, and you make sure their leader doesn't kill you. And so like holding back Lothcat, no good to be dead. Some way to exhaust, or you can threaten a legacy run sack to nuke him, or you can threaten a Maul if you're on 7 resources. You just have to basically threaten them so that their leader flip isn't what they want it to be, and that their ECL Vader isn't what they want it to be, if they get it at all. Because again, that's mainly a target for Bazine. Like in the top 4 or top 8 match, I had the initiative because I was the top seed, so I played Bazine. He had Infernal 4, Power, Vader. Right? Obviously, I'm not taking out Power because Power Bazine is trash. I'm not taking out a redundant turn 1 play, and Vader is like the cream of the crop because that's literally what I had in mind. Was I figured he'd hold on to a Vader and I could just snipe the Vader early, so I wouldn't have to worry about it later. Because what are the odds he's going to draw into another Vader by 6 resources? It's like 4 draw phases, right? And he has no ramp to it either. So that was my idea there. Take Vader's away, don't get blown out by a leader flip. And then I'll go through the ones I drew with, just in case you come across them, because Cad Bane, Target Town, and Han 1 Green are very popular. So for Target Town, Cad Bane, they're going to have 2 different minds. A lot of the time, they're not going to go into the double 1-drop, because everything you play kills. All of this dies to ISB, dies to P38, it dies to Crom, it dies to basically your entirety of your deck. It all dies. So if I'm looking for anything into this deck, it's generally like I'm looking for 2 turn 1 plays that are both different, in the sense that I'm looking for an ISB or a Crom or a McClunky combination of all that, and then I'm looking for Aura. And why I'm doing that is because like I want to be able to punish them either way they go, right? Because if they go an Aura Sing, I want to be able to mirror them, right? I want to play my Aura Sing after they play their Aura Sing. I don't lead mine first because of the fact that I have ISB. So then if they do the double target down, I don't want to get blown out by that. So I keep a lot of early stuff, and I don't really like this deck has no late game, right? You can flip on literally whatever you want. You just need to flip your leader to apply more pressure because they have nothing, right? They have Ruthless Raiders and Devastators, and by the time either of those come out, the game will be won or lost, really. So if navigating just those early turns is all that's important. So it's okay to sneak attack in legacy runs, sneak attack in what's it called? Contracted hunters. Like you can do anything you need to do to make sure you don't die. And that means a lot of the time all your top end just goes into the resource row because you don't like your leader is more top end than this deck has. So that's generally my best thing is like their best turn 1 is probably just like 2 Guavians because it doesn't die to everything. But then like because then it's a little awkward because then like if they go with the Guavian and you pass because you're holding an aura or holding an ISB, it's like, oh, I don't really want to do that, and then they can claim, and then they're just up a Guavian. That's probably the best case scenario for them, because like I said, if they, if you pass, they go aura, you just play your aura, and it's like kind of no different, right? Because like they'll swing your base, you'll swing into their aura, and it's like, well, it only did 1 damage back, so it's like, even with the Guavian, right? You can swing into a Guavian for free. And then it's like, well, I can only do 1 damage, and then you just sag it, and so it's like, So like, really, it's just navigating the fact that they want to do their double 1-drop, but then they can't because of the ISB. So that's really what you want to do. You have one option that essentially blows them both out of both. And if you can't draw that, well, then you just have to stick with one of the 2 game plans. And it's just making sure you don't get blown out by a Zuckuss 4-lump combo that does 1 billion damage. But again, Contracted Hunter is generally very good. And like if they Boba Fett and you have sneak attack Contracted Hunter, you can probably sneak attack in the Contracted Hunter, sack it, and that's probably perfectly fine too. Same with like sneak attacking Legacy Run. All of that is good here because like it doesn't matter. You just need to make sure you're not getting overwhelmed. And Han 1. Han 1s, they have generally 2 different packages. They've got their buff up Falcon package, and then they have their super ultra value package of 7 drops. But really the main thing is don't die to a big piloted Falcon like I did in Minneapolis, and don't have their leader flip get so much tempo on you that you lose the game. And that's really how you have to play it. And with Legacy Run, it's a lot better because sneak attack in a Legacy Run can deal with a lot of problematic stuff. And even Legacy Run just presented as a threat is really awkward for them. Though it's less awkward for them than other decks because like they have blue leader, which 1-for-1s it. And if they have nothing else on board, then it's nothing. and they have like falcons which can kill it. And then like if they have nothing else on board, then it's fine. So like there's some sequencing things where you have to be aware of, like if they're on like 5 resources, right? And they, do the Han thing, so they're at 6, and like let's say you ramped and they didn't, I don't know, because they're unlucky, right? So then you play out your legacy run. They've got nothing on board. You just played out your legacy run. You've got 1 resources to sack it, so they can't flip their leader. But then they just like play a blue leader, kill it, and then they flip, and then they swing, and then they smuggle out attack. And it's like, okay, well then I'm on 7, right? Because I'm special and I'm drawing everything. So then like I evaded their attack, right? But then they have a Han turn and they can do whatever they want, and I don't have any pressure on them. So then they like Han unit my Vader that's damaged, and they kill it, and then they attack with Han, and now I've got to flip, and like unless I have a change of heart, which would be really nice. Like let's say I change a heart to Han Solo, and then they have another Han Solo, right? And they kill it, and then I have nothing on board to flip. And but then like okay, I play Crumb, they swing, and it's like okay, then I flip, and then I can kill their leader finally. But it's like it's taking everything out of the tank. And I had to draw everything perfectly. So that's some of the things to where I was like, don't get blown out by them cheesing you essentially. And post board it gets a little better because of confiscate, so you don't have to worry as much about the chewy tech stuff, because you can just hold confiscates. Traders is a bit odd because some of them are running confiscates in the main, but this one isn't, so you won't get blown out as much. And then just Kira shenanigans, with messing up your sequencing, they'll like Kira. But that's one of the best things about contracted hunters is they kill Kira on Kira's turn. So unless they call a contracted hunter, you can just kill it. So then Kira isn't nearly as a hassle as previously. So navigate big pilot Falcon, navigate Falcon blowing up your legacy run, and then navigate the leader flip turn, whether no good to be dead, a lost cat. I was playing a bamboozle on the side for this tournament, so that's one way to do it as well. But really, those are the 3 main things to watch out for: is just flip turn, Falcon turn. All right, let's go to the next. See if there's another Han Solo Turkin Town. This is a popular deck, and it'll only get more popular with set 6. So with this one, it's very interesting because half the cards absolutely trash into you, and half the cards are really good into you. And this matchup is mainly just about early aggression and navigating the flip, post board and pre board. So game 1, a lot of their turn ones are bad into you. Their best turn ones aren't. So Republic Y-Wing and Cartel Turncoat are their best turn ones into you. C3PO is another really good one because it allows them to get draw so that they can go later. But yeah, Wolfpack Escort and Mining Guide are really, really bad, and they're just free kills. So what this deck tries to go is go super wide, refill their hand with Boshek, and then take essentially 2 turns with the Han Solo flip turn. So they'll like play a Falcon, flip on the Falcon, hit you for 6, and then they reset all their resources. So then they go like a Falcon and a Sanctuary Shuttle. Or what I've seen them do is like they'll go like Cartel, Mining Guild, Ready Falcon. I'll flip onto the Ready Falcon. Boom, 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 boom. I have 5 things on board because I have a random like Crackshot Y-Wing or V-Wing ready, so then I ready 5 resources, and then I play a Poe, and so it's like you've got to deal with a Poe, a Falcon with a leader, and then 3, 2 1s essentially, or 2 3s or 1 3s or whatever, and it's like that's a lot to deal with on a flip turn, going into like if you didn't ramp around like 6 resources and you got to deal with a Poe, a Falcon with a leader on it, 3 1-drops, and it's like I'm gonna die. So it's really just navigating an explosive turn into Poe. Post board it gets a little better because, like I said, you can bring in confiscates if you don't already have them in the main, and that means when they flip, you can just nuke their leader or no good to be dead their leader, and they still get a reset, but they just don't hit you for a bunch. Target down isn't too crazy because like most of your early plays are gonna die, and like Legacy Run you want to die, so it's just like it's a lot easier for them to sequence Legacy Run a little bit better because of Target Town. Like they can run their Mining Guild TIE Fighter into it, draw a card, then they have nothing on board, then they just Target Town your Legacy Run. But in general, Legacy Run is really good. Sneak Attack Legacy Run is really good. They've got jamming comms. I assume all of them are going to be playing some sort of hand hate, whether it be Spark or jamming comms. And they might run Waylay. So just some stuff to keep aware of. But generally, play around their flip and play around Poe. I think that's the only time I've ever lost a game I've never lost a match. A game is when they do their flip turn, do a Poe thing, and it's too much, and you die. Okay. Han Solo Force. This one is, again, depending on the initiative, but the two best cards in your deck are going to be Contracted Hunters and really most of your top end. But Contracted Hunter is like the MVP of this matchup. So navigating, if they have the initiative, what are they leading with? If you have the initiative, what are you leading with? If you have the initiative, it's pretty safe to go Aura Sing, because it's generally like your best turn one. If they have the initiative though, that means they could do Bogdo, and if they Bogdo, then your Aura is like a lot worse, because then they just kill it for free, and then it's like, well, did I really do anything? Now ISB isn't awful if they go Ogdo, because what you can do is you can play it, ping it, sack it, ping it, and then if you have P38, it pings it. And a lot of the times, what they'll do is they'll like play an itinerant warrior, and then you can sack it, ping off the shield, ping it a damage, and then if you have another one, you just play another one and kill it. Otherwise, you can go like ISB and kill it, sack it, ping it. There's a lot of ways to maneuver around an Ogdo. Another thing you can very well do is just literally claim into Contracted Hunter to just kill all of their turn ones, except for Secretive Sage. But again, if they do Secretive Sage and you have ISB, you can just play the ISB, ping off the shield, run it into it, and then sack it. Not the end of the world. And then especially good if then they go like a damaged turret and you have Sneak Attack Contracted Hunter to kill it and just reset. Like, it's okay to just reset, because the only way Hansu Blue wins is if they deal an insurmountable amount of damage that they can just kind of snowball it and you die. But like if you're ahead, you're gonna stay ahead because they have no real like comeback mechanics. And you can pretty much flip as early as you want, because again, this is a matchup where you're just gonna throw your whole board into a Crate Dragon and then just go Walker, and they're gonna kind of have trouble with that. But yeah, it's just controlling that early aggression. If they go like turn one Grogu and you like don't really have a good thing, it's like, oh, everything you do pings and Grogu's just gonna move the pings. If you have Contracted Hunter, you can just claim and Contracted Hunter and kill the Grogu. Because like, okay, sure, they go like an itinerant warrior, right? And you're like, okay, yeah, but I can just ping off the shield and I'll find a way to, and then it's already damaged. So like, yeah, mainly just it's those first couple of turns that are really the most important, because it's not gonna snowball one way or the other. Oh, and ramp is really good. Game one, it's exceptionally good because they don't have champs. And then game two, it's fine because you can like maneuver around their champs or bait them into chamming. And if they're chamming, they're not doing anything else, right? They're not building a better thing on their board. And a 5/4, as scary as it is, it's not like 2-for-1ing or 3-for-1ing or presenting like 8 damage to your base like Poe is. So at the end of the day, Ramp, Contracted Hunters are your two MVPs, and then Vader's. I think a lot of the games I was winning in playtesting where I ramped, I had Contracted Hunters, and I played a Vader and found an ISB or a P38, and kind of snowballed from there. Sabine, it's still really, really, really bad. But basically, sneak attack, legacy run, try to blow up their whole board. Like, I don't know, they're just gonna kill you somehow, some way. They always do. But usually they're gonna lead with either they're gonna try to avoid leading with one of their 3/2s. So they're gonna avoid trying to lead with Luke or Phoenix because they died ISB. So that means your best play is like, hopefully you go Crumb into McClunky is like your best play. Especially if they like pass, because they want to lean dodge you. They won't, but say they do. Or sorry, not pass, ping. They're gonna ping because they want to lean dodge you, and you crumb, and it's like they healed, and then it's like really awkward. So if they lead with any generic 3, your best play will always be McClunky. McClunky. That will always be your best. And then it's like, okay, well, turn 2, what are they going to do? Well, if you've McClunky, then it's a lot better, because then they're either going to go like Speed Masterpiece, Red 5, or Cassian. And like, that's not bad, because those are all very passive things. And if you have Sneak Attack Legacy Run on 4, that's really good, especially if they go with a ship. Because like, it'll kill Sabine's Masterpiece and kill Sabine in one go. It'll kill Red 5 and Sabine in one go. And then you've, exhaust stuff too with like Loth Cats and No Gonna Be Deads. So that's really the main thing, is like exhausting Sabine is worth more damage than exhausting any other unit, because of the fact that she's not pinging you every turn if she's exhausted. So like, exhausting their stuff to negate damage and Legacy Run to nuke their board. You can flip as early as you want because you just have to you just have to because the fact that they've got 4 cause and timely K2s or ECL K2s and Poe damage and wreckers and just everything in their deck kills you. Bazine is the MVP here by far. Especially the later the game goes, the more and more you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, where are my Sabines? Because like 4 calls will kill you, Wrecker will kill you, Poe will kill you, K2 will kill you, Small Dog Cassians will kill you, everything will kill you. So sneak attacking in a Walker is absolutely fine. Sneak attacking in Legacy Run, sneak attack is like, because you're gonna need it and you're gonna need multiples. Um, but yeah, this is still a really bad matchup. The easiest way to win is to have your opponent be really bad at the game. Um, so that they go like a Phoenix Squadron into your ISB, and then they go like a Fleet Lieutenant into your McClunky, and then they go like K2 into your Contracted Hunter, and like you just 1-for-1 them, and then like you sneak attack in Legacy Run after they go with like a Poe played out, and then and then you just nuke it. Like dream scenario, dream, like they play into what you can play into, and then it's fine. But yeah, it's pretty bad. Yoda Blue. This is getting popularity. Let's see. How would I beat this? Pretty simply is just play around. Essentially, like, so if they flip and they flip to toss the Yoda to kill their own Luke, like that's fine. So really you just have to make sure that it's one of those, like, if they have board control, they're going to keep it. If you have board control, you're going to keep it because they've got nothing that can really take it away from you. So the two like biggest blowouts, I guess, are like a Traitorous and You're My Only Hope into a big bomb earlier than you want, and then they apply pressure with it. Like sideboard, I'm not really worried about that at all. So just don't get blown up by Traitorous. And it's one of those, if you're ahead, you're usually going to stay ahead. So how do you get ahead is generally doing the same shenanigans you do with any deck. Is like most of these cards are kind of bad. Like Battlefield Marine just dies to McClunky. Moloth Cat you don't even have to worry about because it applies no pressure. Village Protector sucks because it applies no pressure and just dies to half your deck. So like most of what they're doing isn't applying pressure, and if they're not applying pressure, all they're doing is building board state. So all you have to do to match them is just build board state, which generally is just ramp, right? Because if you ramp, look how much removal they're running. They're running essentially 5 pieces of removal with their leader flip, and that's all you have to deal with. So if you steal something and they have to use their leader flip on it, that's a negation to that, and that's one of their bombs. So that's 2 of their bombs are gone. So then they have 2 less bombs, and they only have 4 removal spells. And if they're removing something, they're not doing anything. And so that's the best case scenario: is they're removing, not doing. Because then you can continuously advance your boards. And stuff like Walker is a 2-for-1. Stuff like Vader is a 2-for-1. Stuff like Maul is generally a 2-for-1. And so you essentially can snowball your advantage. And the fact that your leader draws a card instead of cycling a card is significantly better. So just essentially, like all the blue-green heroic decks or red, it's all about board state. It's all about board state. Damage on base does not matter. If they're swinging to base, it does not matter because all that matters is the board state at the end of the day. Quinlan Tarkentown. Oh wow, 5-2. Dang. Still got it. Like I said, blue green, green red, yellow blue, and any combination of heroic or mid range really is just all about board state and making sure one player has control. Because like yellow, it's like there's change of hearts and there's sneak attacks and there's stuff you can do, but it's not like blue where you can just blast away your problems or timely Vader away your problems. Like if they have too much, they have too much. And that's how they beat you. So just make sure none of those decks get too much. So now that this deck doesn't have Force Throw, is it better or worse? And it's about the same. And with the Contractor Hunters, this matchup is a lot better, especially with Aura Sing, it's a lot better. So there's a lot of reasons why this matchup has improved since Secrets of Power. But it's still not great. Because like other decks, they can play around your Legacy Run the best because of Tarkentown and pinging. And they run usually thicker units. This one's only running 1 Poe. Some of them run more than 1 Poe. Spark is really good. Blaster is really good. Usually how this deck wins is like Guerrilla Soldier, Guerrilla Soldier, Guerrilla Soldier, Guerrilla Soldier. Yeah. And then blasters on their leaders. So like if you don't ramp, then it's pretty bad. If you're able to sneak in a ramp and you can like navigate like with a sneaked legacy run or just a legacy run sack, it's a lot easier. But like Gorilla Soldier is really bad because like a lot of the times that's going straight to your base, or it's dealing enough damage to something where it like kind of just dies. Um, and like so you're gonna pass into them. They're gonna play something, right? So let's say they play Sabine, you play an Aura, right? They're gonna claim, and they're gonna swing into your base, and then you're gonna swing and kill the Sabine. Then they're gonna target town it, and then you're gonna ramp. Say you're gonna resupply, right? And so then they play Gorilla Soldier, do 5 to your base. Now you're 8 to your base, and then you're at 5, right? So you play at a Legacy run, and then they, I don't freaking know, Blake it to, Blake it to. Put some applied pressure on it. Then you're gonna claim. They swing it 2 more, so now you're at 10. You can sack it, and then you can clear their board 7. Then you take 3 more to your base. Now you're at 13. But you only have 5 resources. This is their flip turn, right? So you have to navigate. Are they gonna play Cassians, Pose, Plos? Are they gonna flip? Are they gonna play a Falcon, a Spy Strike? And you're at 10 damage, so you have 30. You have 20 life left, right? So like if they Poe and flip, you're on 6, right? So you've got 5. Are you ramping? So basically, ramp. Ramp is the best. And just trying to play around what they can do, because if you accelerate the ramp clock, it's really hard because they don't have as much reach as Sabine does. They're not on 4 causes, and like pillages, whatever. Like they don't have the force throws anymore, so the hand hate isn't really there. So you just have to make sure you're not getting super blown out by like a Poe actually hitting you, and then, yikes, especially if they can blast her and do like 10 damage to you. That boom, half your life is gone, or a third of your life, but half your life if you're only at 20 life left. But legacy run, legacy run, legacy run, and then it's just timing your legacy run so it actually has impact on the board and not just playing it into an empty board, and then they just like play around on 3-drop or Falcon and kill it, and then they just trade, and they're up to resources, and so that's kind of bad. But yeah, or they spark it away from you, and then you have nothing to do on your turn. So just make sure you're playing around the fact that they can play around the fact that you're playing around them. So like if they Kira, don't have your only turn. Like if you've ramped and they go first and they Kira and the only thing in your hand is Legacy Run, and you lose the game because you can't do anything. Like don't do that. Like play around the fact that they have Kiras and Sparks and Ahsokas, to try and like maneuver around you. So just always have more than one option on your turn. Like always, 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 because they always have a Spark or a Kira, and if that screws you up, then you kind of just auto lose the game. Mother Talzin. I don't think there's any good Mother Talzins here, so I'll go look at like this winning list here. Chams in the main is something that's really, really good into Pop Yellow. So that's something to be aware of now. That hey, if you're coming against some Mother Talzin, before was pretty good matchup, but now hey, Cham in the main is something you have to consider. No disintegrations in the main is also a good net because like it allows them to kill walkers, which they really couldn't do. Invaders and mauls, and even allows them to kill like devastators, which is kind of crazy. If they have the force. So what's kind of the game plan here is one, generally the only way you lose is if they have a big Mother Talzin that doesn't get exhausted and then smacks your base for 1 billion damage and you die. Or they go like turn 1 unit, turn 2, they put lightsaber on it, smack you for a bunch of damage and they die. Basically, the only way they win is if they have some way to accelerate their clock. So Cham Syndulla, if they ramp, accelerates their clock. Lightsabers on a unit, uncontested, accelerates their clock. That's how they accelerate their clock. And so the other only way is to get value, play into the board, right? So if they Darth Tyranus, get a free kill. If they net Talzin's Assassins, get a free kill. That's essentially doing the same thing you're doing, but they're applying more pressure to the board. So this is all about board state, same way like the other matchups are. It's just they have ways to accelerate their clocks by lightsabers and chams, and so you just have to play around those. So Lothcats, No Gonna Be Deads, Confiscates, Legacy Run sneaked in, play around chams, because like cham is really good if it's played on 4, right? If you ramp into them having cham, is really good. Or if you ramp prior and then they play cham on 4 to go to 5, that's really good, right? So just play around essentially those things. Lightsabers, Force Lightnings, like don't play a Super Laser Technician if they led with a Secret of Sage, and then they can just 1 mana, kill it, you've done nothing, and then they can go like Director Krennic, right? And then they've applied more to the board than you have, and you've done nothing. So just some things to keep in mind. When going against that. Han Solo ECL, just in case this gets popular. They're just going to play big things. They're not going to use their ability too much, except when they're going to use it, it's going to be impactful. And they're going to General's Blade. Freaking why not, bro? It's free wins. And if they General's Blade and they get out an early anything, you just kind of auto lose the game. Because it's just so freaking early. And they always will have Chams in the main, so it makes ramping really awkward because like they can do it on 3, which means they can literally match the turn you do it, which makes it really weird. But Legacy runs definitely going to be your best bet and pings, but you'll notice they're not like going super wide like they previously used to. They're going kind of value based, and so that makes all the pings a little more awkward. And you have to watch out for Gorilla attack pods hitting you for 6 on 5, which is really freaking good. Really, really good. And also, they still have the whole ECL Wreckers shenanigans in there as well. So, something to keep in mind. Let's see. Throw on Data Vault. This is really interesting because, like, it depends on the build of the Throw on Data Vault, whether or not it's, like, favored. If they're on a version that's, like, not vigilance based, it's pretty easy. Generally, it should be. If they are, then it's like, like this deck can still beat you, simply for the fact that it is just a billion value. Like Night Sister Warrior draws 2, Owen draws 2, Yoda draws 2, Cobb Vanth grabs 2 guys, billion value, and Chimera double trigger, double trigger, double trigger, double trigger. Everything is double triggered. And then they have blast. But here it's just take away their blast and just smack a bunch of damage to their board. And Relentless kind of just one taps them because I don't know what they're gonna do to Relentless. At least in the main. In the main, they have nothing for Relentless. Like you play that, they lose the game on the spot. Post board, then they bring in like Annihilators and Fleet Interdictors and Palp's Returns, and then it gets really bad because then you kind of have to kill them a little bit faster because holy crap, that's a lot of top end. But then it's the same kind of logic that the Kira's is, right? You chip away, you chip away, you chip away. You navigate, then they annihilate it, but then you just sneak attack and kill them. Same with Ein. All these decks are more or less the same. Chip away, chip away, chip away, chip away, chip away. Boom, sneak kill. Yeah. And Iden is where the Relentless will be the best, simply because beyond Pershing, they have 0 draw, so it's just 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1, 1 for 1. So if you can ramp into a Relentless earlier, and they're going to have a high chance of Avengers or Devastators, but again, they're doing that, and then you can sneak attack and kill them. You'll notice I like sneak attack a lot. Let's see over here. As you can see, like, if you look at the bracket, this is a really, really, really good bracket for Palp. Because like I said, all of the decks he played against are all value-based board decks. So Anakin's really easy. If you exhaust their Anakin, they do nothing. Like, the only way Anakin Blue beats you is if they get an Anakin with a lightsaber that's uncontested. It's rare. It happens. It's rare, but that's literally the only way they can beat you. Hantu Blue, as long as you put it on the board and you understand the shenanigans of like when to claim and contracted hunter, when do you play ISB into B38, when do you go aura if you're on the initiative or not, do you play Bazine, how do you navigate that? And then again, Han 1 is probably like 50-50, right? Because they can go the value route, they can go the Han Tricky route. Are you on the confiscates in the side of the main? Can you navigate their flip? But if you can navigate their flip, then it's pretty reasonable. So this is a really good top 8 because, like I said, I think this is favored, 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 because I literally just 4-0 just, this is good. So, like, all of these matchups is good, and that's kind of how Palpiola plays, is, like, the later you go into, a game, generally, as long as you can dodge speed doing well enough, then it should be fine. But let's look, here's another Thrawn, which looks more or less the same. So same kind of ideas apply. Here's a Gar Saxon. This is the Gar Saxon that Bobby lost to. And you can see it's more or less the same, right? They're doing the same game plan. It's really just can they Timely Vader / Iden versus COU, and if you don't have the answers or not. But I expect more traders, 2 traders, 3 traders. I expect them to be on traders. It's a very good card. So just don't get blown up by traders. No glories, but yes to traders. So something to keep in mind. Vader, Vader yellow. So this is really interesting because, like I said, a lot of their cards die to your R cards just by default. Like Solus 1 dies, Mighty God TIE Fighter dies, Droid Starfighter dies, TIE dies, First Order TIE dies, Eager Escort dies, Geonosis Patrol Fighter dies, 7th Fleet Defender generally dies, and P-38 most certainly dies. So basically every card they play dies. So there's really only 3 cards that don't die and also blow you out of the game instantly. Victor Leader, Clone Combat Squadron, and the Lurking TIE Phantom, right? And so basically your game plan is how do I play around the flip, and then how do I play around those 3 cards, because that's kind of it. This isn't even playing Bazine, which Bazine, in my opinion, was an MVP in the Vader Yellows, but they're not. So like this sideboard, you don't like this is all useless. So they have nothing. They have nothing to improve their matchup into you, which is really good because you do have stuff that improves your matchup into them. Post or pre-board, doesn't matter. So best turn 1 they can do is like a double 1/3s because like if you have McClunky, like Greedo McClunky is great. Or sorry, not Greedo McClunky. I'm thinking set 2. Crumb McClunky is really good. ISB is really good. Or Sing is usually pretty bad because again they have no ground. Like they have no ground units, none. So anything that interacts with the ground is really bad. So like Contractor Hunter is really bad, or Sing is really bad. The Loftcats can be decent in case they flip to the ground. But that's about it. So really just play around Victor Leaders, Clone Combat Squadrons, and Lurking to Phantoms. If you're having trouble with the matchup, then Eager Escorts in your side makes complete sense. I didn't have them in mind because I didn't expect Vader Yellow, but if you expect Vader Yellow, put Eager Escorts in. But otherwise, like, they might have to play into your free kills. So they might go like TIE Fighter into Y-Wing. So you kill one of them, they attack you with one of them, they get a token, but it's just really all around the Clone Combat Squadron, the Lurking TIE Phantoms, and the Victor Leaders. So if you're having trouble with this matchup, Commandeer is decent to take Clone Combat Squadrons. Um, Eager Escort is really a really good play because it kills Victor Leader on the same curve. So like if they went, TIE Fighter, you went ISB, killed them both, and they go Victor Leader, then you just kill the Victor Leader, and it's like, everything's fine, everything's juicy good. A lot of times this game will be won by the fact that you just randomly top deck a Devastator, and they don't have a waylay for it. That's about it. They're going to take out the outmaneuvers, and they're going to sign in Overwhelming Barrage, is generally what they're going to do. Alright. We have anything else? Kylo Ren Data Vault plays exactly the same as all the other Data Vault decks. Just chip away, chip away, chip away, chip away, chip away. If they flip, no good. Or throw enough value into him to kill him. And then sneak attack, big thing for win. Devastator also just kind of one-shots him. And basically the only way you can lose that is if they go like an early Ray, and then the Ray just outvalues you. How do you deal with Kylo? Target down. Generally, it's just don't die. So a lot of the times they're going to have to do the snapshot reflexes one-shot combo you because of the fact that you've got no good to me deads, Lothcats. Post board, you might even have like bamboozles, or confiscates and everything. So they're gonna go like turn 1 play. They're gonna try and buff it up. They're gonna try and swing damage. They don't have too much in the way of like the pillage game plan. So not too much there. So and like here you can flip, like just flip. Because you need to apply pressure. Like look at this list. They have no top. They literally have no top end. So you're not getting anything on the flip. You can change your heart anything if it means smacking them with it. Basically this plays like an aggro deck that's like a Kylo 1 or the first version of Kylo Tarkin Town, right? Just do anything you can to just negate damage because they're gonna have to one-shot you with the snapshot reflexes. Otherwise you can just have him down and then just forget about him and kill him. And Sneak Attack is another really good card at accelerating your clock because again they're on 25 HP. That's not a lot, and they don't have much. So like, makes it really bad. Piet is really bad. I'm sorry, Admiral Mahdi is pretty bad because you can, unless they're part of the one-shot combo. All their turn ones are generally pretty bad into you because you can like ping and then just kill them. So it's like, so yeah, this deck got significantly worse without Force Throw. But if you expect to see it on yellow, it's a lot better than it was on blue because blue you had to tech for it because otherwise they one-shot you. This one it's pretty easy. Just make sure they don't get early damage on you. Long Pike, Anakin's, you can change of heart and smack them into each other, and then just flip as early as you need to apply as much pressure as you can because they die very quickly. Han Solo Data Vault. This one can be tricky. I drew to this at 1 PQ, and that made me get 9th place. Because they're gonna have the champs in the board, and they're gonna have the value engine of like Mon Mothma into Bright Hope into Home One into like Rebellious Hammerheads, which are pretty awkward. So everything this deck does is kind of awkward for you. Like Mace Windu kills a bunch of things and readies, and they're gonna be on 3 crates, and they're gonna have Gorilla Attack Pods, which can come in ready for 6. Like they've got a lot that's actually not that bad. And they've got timely crates, which is really freaking bad. And this deck has like a redundancy of top end, and like Grogu's turn 1 is still really good because like it's a lot of what you're doing, and like this deck is actually not that bad into you. Now it's again a deck that doesn't do well coming back, but if it's ahead, it'll stay ahead. So yeah, or try to negate the early aggression because then more or less they're doing 1-for-1 things. And if they're doing 1-for-1 things, generally you can do better. And then once you flip, you should be far enough ahead to win the game. Just play around timely crates if you're ahead, and that's the only way you lose. Bazine is really good as well. Rated Evolved plays like all of them. Board control. That's also the same with that. Is just board control. It's all about board control really against these heroic decks because that's the only way they build. They have their own reach, so the only way to win is if they're already winning. They can't win from behind. So yeah, that should be everything for my boy Palp. You can just comment if you have any questions about a certain matchup or certain questions or like sideboard cards for a matchup that you expect or whatever. Because that's the really cool thing about Palp is like you can tech it however you want to tech it in both the main and the side. So like if you're like I love the one Relentless in the main, both in the Hobby Knights PQ that I took like 13th at, or and the one I won, it was amazing in the main. But you don't have to. Like if you're not expecting that much like control or blue green villainy, you can just put that on the side. And if you're expecting more like Boba Data Vaults, you can go Commandeers, or you can maybe be on the 3 sneaks in the main if you expect more aggro or 3 change hearts or more Lost Cats. I personally really like the Revan's Lightsaber because it allows you to do really explosive plays. You already have the sneak attack, so it's like explosive on explosive. But yeah, that's all I got for my boy Palp. That's the only tournaments for now, so I'll keep thinking up stuff, and maybe a video will come out before 4 months pass. But yeah, have fun stealing stuff.